Are you too old to become a pilot? Well, first let's define what old is. I've had some of you tell me that you're in your late 20s, early 30s, and some even early 40s, and you think you're too old to become a pilot. Seriously, 30s and 40s is not considered old. So let's move on to the next question that I normally get is, what's the latest age should I decide to move on to the career of being a pilot? And that really depends on what type of pilot you want to be. If you want to be an airline pilot, it's going to take a little bit longer to get to versus being just a regional pilot. And trust me, being a regional pilot, you can still have a really good career flying a jet or a heavy turboprop such as a Dash 8. So either way, you're winning in my opinion. So to make things easy, let us reverse engineer from 65 down to when you should start your flight training. Why 65? Because as a pilot in most places of the world, 65 is the latest age where you must retire as a working pilot. Now, let's minus 20 years from that, because at a lot of companies, it takes 20 years at minimum to get a pension. So if you take 65 minus 20, we have 45 years old. Let's say you decide to get to the regionals or the airlines at the age of 45. It probably takes you 3 years before that to do any sort of time building to get to your ATPL requirements. So if you do 45 minus 3, that's 42. And it usually takes about 2 years to go through your entire flight training from scratch. That's if you do it relatively quickly. Take 42 minus another 2 years, we're looking at 40 years of age. So at bare minimum, if you want to get a full pension at the airlines, do not start your flight training any later than 40 years of age. Now, I know some of you are well past 40. Can they actually have a successful career? And the answer is yes. But now, because time is literally not on your side, you have to do things a lot quicker than, let's say, somebody in their early teens or 20s. What I mean by that is that you have to finish your flight training really quickly. The faster you finish your flight training, the faster you can start time building and the faster you can apply for a job. I would assume by now in your career, you have a whole bunch of savings set aside. Maybe you have a good salary at your job. Anything over 100,000, it's going to really help you get a loan. What I would do is take some time off work or your business and go fly much, much quicker than somebody who is in school. I would recommend flying at least 5 times a week. You can finish your flight training in literally a year and a half at the maximum if you do that. And then once you do so, you can decide to do one of several paths. A very common path I see people who are starting late in their careers that they ended up buying their own airplane for cheap. Maybe they split it with a couple other pilots. And by doing so, they ended up racking a whole bunch of hours really quickly, flying on their own for fun. And then from there, they ended up getting their first job flying a light turboprop, such as the King Air or Beech 1900. Another option is the traditional way, but it's much slower in my opinion, and that's the old flight instructing route. It's going to take a couple of years to build hours, but that's another way you can do so. I would say anything later than 45 years of age, you're not really going to get the full pension at a lot of these companies, so your targets should be a little different. I wouldn't go shooting for the major airlines as my end career goal. Instead, I would pick the regionals flying either an Embraer jet, CRJ jet, Q400 heavy turboprop. I would pick those and have a really nice career and then sail off into the sunset into retirement. And before we go, let me point out one thing that's maybe not so obvious. You only live one life. You don't want to get to the end of your life living with regrets. It's one of the reasons why I decided to pursue flying. I had a really good paying job working in the office and working in maintenance at one point. And I decided to switch into being a pilot because I couldn't see myself being 80 years old and having any regrets of not pursuing this career. Hopefully that motivates you to speed things up quicker, because trust me, being a pilot is really enjoyable and I'm glad I made the switch. All right. Hopefully you enjoyed this video and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.